Hello guys, welcome back to another tutorial. Today I'm going to show you guys how I made this beautiful wrap dress. So let's get started. So I folded my pattern paper into two and I'm going to be drafting the back of this dress first. So I'm going to use it to cut to the front. Then at the beginning of the paper I marked about 1 inch across. Then I divided my shoulder measurement by 2, which is 8 inches, and I came down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope. And I took my neck width, which is about 2.5 inches, because I don't want it to be too wide. And I connected that neck width to my shoulder slope. Then because this is the back, I'll just take 1 inch for my neck depth. I'll simply connect those lines together. Then I'll use my curve to connect like so. So basically, I'm just drafting a basic bodice pattern before I now go to my wrap dress. So right now I'm going to take my horizontal measurement and I'm going to start with my bust point, which is 10 inches, then my waist, which is 16 inches. I'm going to take those points across my paper like so. Then I'll simply connect. So next I'm going to draw my armhole line, which will also serve as my chest line, which is about 8 inches. Then I'm going to connect it like so. So this can also serve as my chest line. And I'm going to label it my chest line, my bust point, my waist. So next I'll measure my hip line, which is 9 inches. So your hip line is between 8 and 9 inches. It depends on the person. You can as well measure it on the person's body. I'm going to draw a line across. So the next measurement I'll take now is the full length of the dress. My dress is a short dress, so I'm going to use about 39 inches, including 2 inches for my sewing allowance. So I'll mark that line, that 39 inches across, like so. Sorry, my camera didn't capture that other part, but it's 39 inches that I marked. So it depends on how long you want your dress to be. So I'm going to label the hip line and the dress length. So next, I'm going to take in my dart measurement, which is my nipple to nipple divided by 2, which is 4 inches. I'm going to mark that line on my waist, on my bust point, and on my hip. This is actually not necessary, but it's a guideline for me when I'm shaping my wrap dress. But it's actually not necessary. And I'll go up by 2 inches from my hip line. Now I'll come down by 1 inch, my bust line. Then at my waist, I'm going to take half an inch on both sides. Then I'll simply connect it to that 1 inch I made at my bust line and the 2 inch I took upwards at my hip line. So this will serve as my dart. So before I continue, I'll take my armhole curve. I'll divide this line by 2, which is 4 inches. Then I'll come in by half an inch. Then I'll connect like so. And I'll use my curve to make my armhole curve. So right now I'll divide my bust measurement by 4. Then I'll add 1.5 inches for my sewing allowance. So this dart, like I said earlier, I won't be making use of it. It's just a guideline. Also divide my waist by 4 and add 1.5 inches for my sewing allowance. And at my hip also, I'll divide my hip by 4 and add 1.5 inches for sewing allowance. At the length of my dress, I took the same measurement I took at my hip at my dress length because I don't want it to be too fitted at the down part. So right now I'll just connect my hip to my dress length. Then I'll use my curve to connect my waist to my hip. Then I'll connect my bust point to my waist like so. So this is it. This is the back of the dress. This is the guideline. So I added half an inch on my shoulder slope. Just added half an inch for allowance on my shoulder slope like so. So this is it. We're done drafting for the back. So this is what it looks like. So right now I'm simply going to cut it out. Before I continue, if you find this video useful or you're enjoying the video, please subscribe. You can also like and share it. Thank you. So I'm going to open it up like this. I'm going to connect all those lines I made. I'm just going to draw it out like so. And I'm going to label them. Next, I'll mark 6 inches from my shoulder slope, directly on top of my shoulder slope, not the allowance. This is to avoid the chest being too open. So you can use between 5 and 6 inches, depends. This is to avoid the cleavage showing too much. Then I'll mark a straight line across like so. Simply going to label the paper because this is my back. I'm just using the back to draw the front part of it. So from that line I made and from that midpoint, from the place I folded my paper from, I'm going to use my curve to curve it straight down to my waistline. Please watch closely. From that midpoint, that place I folded my paper from, I'm just going to use my curve to curve it straight towards my waist. Then next, I'll mark that curve towards my neckline also. Please watch closely. From that point, I'm also going to mark it towards my neckline, like so. So remember I said this dart that I made is not necessary. This is where it becomes useful. So from my waist, I'm just going to mark straight down to my hip line where that dart is, like so. Then I'll make a curve straight down to this midpoint also from that my dart line. Just going to make a curve straight down. You can make it straight, you can use your ruler to draw it straight, but I want mine to have a little bit of curve. So I'm just going to shapen it out a little bit like so. So now I'm going to cut on my material. So right now I'm going to be cutting out on my fabric, but I'll cut out the back pattern first. You know, I drafted the back and the front on the same pattern paper, so I'm simply going to cut out the back first. So as we know, the armhole for the back is different from the one at the front. So I'm going to simply mark it like so. I'm going to come out a little bit like so. And I'll continue cutting. So this is the back pattern. So now for the front, I'm going to open my paper and I'm going to cut out that curve that I made. I'm just going to cut it out like so. Just trace it out the same way I made the marks. So this will serve as the wrap side of the dress. So to cut the front, I also folded my material into two, and I'll place the front on top like this. So right now I'm going to cut it out. So this is it. This is what it looks like. Put both sides together. This is exactly what it looks like. So this is the back of the dress. And right now I'll go to my sewing machine and show you guys how I attached everything together. So right now I'll use my bias to tape the neck of the material inside. I'm going to do that for the front and also for the back of the dress. So right now I'm done doing that. This is the front. I taped both sides of the front. And also the back. So next I'll go to my sewing machine and attach the shoulders together. So next I'll attach my sleeves. I already cut out my sleeves, both sleeves. I already cut them out. So I'll just make a notch at the midpoint. After folding it together, I'll make a notch. So right now I want to attach my sleeves to my dress. So the notch I made on my sleeve, I'm going to place it at the midpoint of my armhole like so. Then I'll use a pin to hold it down together. Now I'll simply run a stitch round it like so. You can use your pin to hold it. So after joining both sleeves, I simply went ahead to join my material together, the front and the back of the dress. Simply went ahead to join it together, and this is what it looks like. As you can see, this is what it looks like. So next I'll join the hem of the dress. I'll use 1/2 inch to just join it inside, just all the way to the other side. I'll just hem it. So we are almost done. Right now I'm going to cut out the belt of the dress. The width is about 2 inches, but I added 1/2 inch for sewing allowance, and the length is about 30 inches long. The length for the second belt will be about 35 to 40 inches long. I'm simply going to cut it out. Then I'm simply going to cut the edge like so. I don't want my edge to be straight. I want it to be a little pointed. So I'm going to stitch it in like this. So I'm done stitching and I'm going to bring it out to the other side. So after turning the belt to the other side, this is what it looks like. And I gave it a fine ironing, as you can see. So before we attach the belt to the dress, at one side of your dress by the waist, you measure 2 inches. That is from the midpoint of your waist, you just measure 1 inch on both sides. That's 1 inch on top and 1 inch at the other side, making 2 inches altogether. So from that 2 inches that I marked, I'm going to stitch on both sides. Then I'll open it and make a hole inside. Then I'll stitch all the way around and it will serve as my belt hole. So this is what it looks like. After sewing it all the way around, this will be the hole for your belt. As you can see, this is what it looks like. So next, I'm going to attach both belts to the sides of the dress. Just right at the edge like so. Just attach both of them together. And our wrap dress is ready after attaching the belt. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Thank you.